Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to the next episode of the Step One podcast, where we help you take your first step or your next step in business and in life. My name is Henry Eisenstein, and as always, I have the privilege to introduce today's guest. And our guest today is a top leader in the real estate industry with over 30 years of experience, and he's got extensive experience as an agent, an investor, syndicator, serial entrepreneur, and also has closed nearly $1 billion worth of real estate across the U.S. His name is Joe Killinger, and many of you know of him. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it so much.
Henry, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, listen, first and foremost, obviously I've been following you for quite some time. I'd love for you to kind of rewind the clocks because, I mean, I obviously know you're a super successful guy today, but I'm curious, would we have bet on you in high school and middle school to be the man you are today, or was this someone that you created yourself?
Henry, you wouldn't have been in Wallback, Nebraska. I come from a town of 281 people, so I knew you weren't there. No, probably not. I was super, I come from a very small town, so I was super shy and really kept to myself and a bit of a loner, actually, just because, there wasn't a whole lot to do. I grew up on a working farm, so we had a lot to do, but it took me years. I did a couple years of college at the University of Nebraska, and my family ended up losing the farm, giving it back to the bank, so I didn't have a place to go home to, so I ended up moving to California. And when you're on your own in a different state, especially a state like California, you don't want to be that shy. You want to be the guy that's out there and going leading the pack. So I learned pretty quickly, and so it was definitely high school, super shy. You wouldn't have thought I was going to get anything done in my life, I don't think, looking back.
So then I'm curious, again, you definitely don't come off of shy today. Clearly California must have done something to you. So I'm curious, where did real estate start to enter your life?
It was early on. So my father, when we were losing the farm, he was losing the farm, he started doing real estate or auctions, pigs, horses, cattle, farm equipment. And he ended up doing real estate. And for some reason, when he started doing the real estate, that piqued my interest. He was just getting started. My mother and I pretty much ran the farm while I was in high school. And while he was going to get his education, he started doing the real estate. I got interested. And so I ended up going to the University of Nebraska for a couple of years. And with my interest in real estate, I was 17. I decided, I'm going to get my real estate license as soon as I turn 18. And I did that. I was able to connect with somebody there at Woods Brothers Realty in Lincoln, Nebraska, that really got me on my path. If you can imagine, guy was Pace Woods Jr. His father owned the company, or he owned the company with his father, and gave this 18-year-old kid, I looked like I was 12. Hair parted to the side. I did whatever I could to look a little bit older, but they gave me a shot, and I just was addicted to being around those people that were doing deals, and I just watched the way they talked, and I noticed how important it was to be on top of your game. And I just got kind of a natural high from being around those people. And then I knew. And then when I got to California, I had to get my real estate license all over again and start the whole process. I mentored with somebody so I could really learn the processes in Southern California. I sold shoes at Stride Right Shoes during the week. So I had a mentor on the weekend, sold shoes during the day.
When was it when you got officially licensed in Cali, full blown in real estate?
I didn't have any money, so it took a couple years. It took me a while to get enough time and money to put everything together. So it took a few years, and I was fortunate to find this lady that would take me under her wing on the weekends, and I would just live in the office. She would be out, I'd be doing all the things I could do. I'd be listening to everybody on the phones, and and that's one thing about this industry is, especially in the commercial real estate side, I don't know the residential side anymore. I haven't been in that for quite a few years. But on the commercial side, people will take you under your wing. If you're looking for a good mentor, you have to bring them value. And I did that. I saw that early on, that if she's going to give me all this education, I know I need to give her something back. And I did all the grunt work, but I was just constantly listening to everybody. I soon learned that residential wasn't my path.
Yeah.
I just went like, oh, this isn't for me. But
so you started in the residential side, you said?
Yeah, I started in the residential side with Tarbell Realtors down in Orange County. And I ended up moving up to Los Angeles because I knew that's where the bigger commercial deals were happening. It took me a while. I ended up working in the movie industry, working construction on sets, and before I finally found my footing down the road by getting in with an auction company and seeing the commercial side of it and getting a taste of it.
So let's talk about your first few years in the commercial real estate business, because I'd love to kind of dive in here, right? Because there's a lot. I mean, look, we're recording this here in middle of July of 2024. Interest rates are still at pretty high rates for the people who kind of just got into the business over the last few years. Obviously, things are a lot slower than they were, just a few years ago. So I'm curious, like, what was your first few years like? How much money did you make maybe your first year, and what was, did you rock it out of the gate?
Yeah, I started off in the real estate auction business. So I ended up getting hired by a company that was here in Los Angeles. They were doing real estate auctions. And I got put into the marketing department. I was on site out on their properties where they were auctioning them off. So they'd have like a condo project. They'd have like, 30, 40, 50 condos to auction off. So I started on the marketing side. Eventually I ended up working in the office in the marketing department. So I really got my teeth cut on how to market and sell commercial real estate. And because those transactions happen so fast. And then I got moved into the closing department. That's where my now business partner, George Pino, he was like third down on the list. There were some things that happened during the IPO of this company, and a bunch of people above him got laid off. I was one. George, actually, my business partner, now laid me off. Still getting him for that one, by the way. That this many years later, he laid me off, and then he called a few months later and just said, "Hey, I'm getting laid off. Or I got laid off. What are you doing?" And I just said, "Listen, this is where I'm at." I started a new real estate auction company with one of the largest independents in Los Angeles, Fred Sands Realtor. The company is called the Sands Group. I said, if you want to partner with me, we'll do 50-50. Just come on over and let's get started. And, he was at a point where he was getting married. She had 2 kids and we were strictly commission. So he had to give that some thought. I was single, I just was going to work all the time. I didn't really have anything to hold me back. But so we started in the auction business, and we started just auctioning off single family homes and commercial homes around Los Angeles. We became the number 2 auction company in the Western region within the first 18 months. We just would show up in the office in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, start calling. We'd start in New York, work our way to Hawaii, just cold calling banks, developers across the country. And back then, we did not have the internet. So we had to type out the letters. We had we had a computer, but you could just print out the letter, put somebody's name in, type it. But then we had to fold it, put the stamp on it, and send it every day. We'd start around 3:30, 4 o'clock, finish by 6:37. We're doing that 4 or 5, 6 days a week, whatever it took. We just did what we had to do. But we started auctioning off a lot of commercial. We just fell in love with that. So we really got our teeth cut in that side of it. But what we really learned from the marketing company, or from the auction company, was how to market properties. If you look at our company now, Commercial Brokers International here in Los Angeles, we're a small firm, but we've got 15 agents, but right now we've got 5 international clients. We're bringing a lot of people into the United States and helping them expand across the country because of our marketing.
So let's talk about 2 things real quick. So let's just say you're talking to some of your new agents today. Are you still, telling them to do the same thing, banging the phones day in and day out, calling banks?
Yeah, well, yes.
What are you telling people?
I think in commercial real estate, you're always going to be banging the phones. That's one of the number one things you're going to do. There's so much more that, if I could have back then, I would have, but we didn't have internet. So now I want them to work their sphere of influence, everybody that they know. You want to make sure you're talking to everybody, your church, your synagogue, your high school, your college, if you're alumni, if you have kids in school, work those parents, work everybody around you that knows who you are, work that sphere of influence. And then you want to make sure you're doing your digital marketing regularly. You want to be putting content out at least 3 days a week. Some people do it every day. And writing blogs. Make sure you're getting reviews that really count. When you're getting a review from somebody, make sure that they start by talking about the pain point that you solved for them, not just that Henry was a great agent, I would use him again. Have them, maybe you have to write it out and give it to them, but make sure that you talk about the pain point that you overcame for them and how you resolve that pain, help them get through that.
Got it. So you said sphere of influence, social media, and reviews. When you're starting somebody out from, let's say, day one, they've never been in commercial real estate before, and they join a brokerage. You're saying rip through your sphere of influence, post on social media, get reviews. Is there anything else you're telling them day one?
Depends on the asset class. If it's multifamily, it's gonna be a little hard to do. But let's say you're retail and you want to take over Beverly Hills. You just want, which would be very hard to do, but So you want to just go out and you want to pick a street in Beverly Hills that is going to be your street that you're going to start. You're going to take 3 blocks, and every 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to go out and walk into the stores in that block, do a leave behind, introduce yourself, get to know everybody. Every time you go into the store, capture all the information you can. When you walk out of the store, write all the information down. I talked to Jim. He talked about his dog. He talked about his cat, his kids, whatever it was. Go to the next store, do the same thing. After you do that for about 3, 4, 5 months, they're going to know you. And when they think about doing something, they're like, there's this dude that comes around all the time. I want to talk to him. And he's left a flyer behind with me. I want to talk to him as well. Now you do that for a while. You do that for 3 months or a few months until they know you. And then you take on another 3 blocks. And then another 3 blocks. You're making sure that you're getting very well known in an area, and you'll end up taking over that market.
So how do you choose that market, right? Like, because I'm just so curious. Like, for my guys, a lot of what we do is we hit phones 24/7. Right? We're a big heavy amount of prospecting. We do strict investment sales. Is our primary, and when I talk about choosing a market, we do realistically the entire state of New Jersey. Now, the entire state of New Jersey is probably like the greater LA area, size wise, right? So small joke, but I'm just curious, right? Like where do you see the balance? This is kind of like a twofold. Where do you see the balance of prospecting, like hitting the phones, cold calling, and doing the sphere of influence in the social media and reviews? Now, obviously I know everything is important, right? We know both are obviously crucial, but where do you see the balance?
Well, your scheduling this is very important. Your content creation it should just be a few minutes a day. You shouldn't be constantly on social media, because you're going to get calling your sphere of influence or cold calling. Your sphere of influence is going to be the fastest. Cold calling is you're just building your relationship with everybody. That first cold call, you're not going to get business out of somebody most likely unless you're really good. It's going to be building. It's going to be over time. But most of it in the beginning is going to be cold calling. Documenting your day. If you need content, just document your day going out there. You don't need to put a big bundle of money into content creation. Cold call should be number 1. The rest of it should be minimal during your day. And then of course, block program you have to schedule. You want to make like 2 hours every 3 to 4 weeks. You block that out.
How do you choose that market, right? How do I choose retail? How do I choose?
You want to, if you're going to do retail, what you want to look is, okay, what's the average deal size in the area? What's the price per square foot? Is this something I can live on? If it's, there's a few transactions happening in this market and it's $2 a foot, an average deal size, 1,500 square feet, you want to go find a market that you can make some money and live off of.
Before you continue, I think this is so freaking powerful that you say this. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yep.
I feel like every company, and tell me if I'm wrong. I love for some debate. I love for you to put it right here on social, okay? I feel like people walk into a traditional, the super corporate-y type of commercial brokerages, and they walk in the door, and that brokerage basically just says, hey, you're going to go do this asset class or whatever in this market. And a lot of people, when they choose another brokerage, right, because they choose it for you. When they go to an independent, which maybe even is like a little bit more of like a Keller Williams or something that doesn't focus too much on commercial real estate, not saying a bad company, but doesn't do a ton of commercial. These agents have no freaking idea where to start, right? And then they end up choosing their backyard because it's super local, but the prices suck. Right?
I see it regularly. We talk to a lot of these guys. The big firms aren't going to allow you to market because they want to control their branding, right?
For sure.
Their branding and their messaging. They're going to control that. The smaller firms, mid to smaller firms, are more entrepreneurial. Like we are. I mean, we will help our agents build out their websites. We'll tell them, you need to be doing your SEO regularly. A lot of people will build a website and then they forget about their SEO. They'll I talked to a guy the other day. He's been in business for 4 years. I go, okay, when's the last time you did your SEO? He goes, well, when we built the website. I'm like, oh. So you should be doing it at least every 3 months, preferably every month. You want to be doing it a lot more. You got into this business to make money. And if you think you're going to make a ton of money just cold calling and then giving the lead off to a senior broker, it's going to be pretty hard. The turnover rate on that is those agents are very high. We have turnover. We tell agents from the very beginning that, our training is a lot different. So our training at Commercial Brokers International is every morning, Monday through Friday, you're going to be in a class at 8:30, and it's going to be taught by our CEO. It's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour, and then you can start doing your day. And then again at 5 o'clock, we sit down with everybody and go, okay, all the new agents, what happened today? How many cold calls did you do? What were the results of those calls? And if you did an email, yesterday, what did that look like? How many people clicked through? How many people looked at it and all that? We want to teach them how to look at their analytics. We want to teach them how to analyze everything they're doing, because if you sit down and analyze with a residential or commercial real estate agent with what they're doing a lot of stuff that's actually just wasting their time because they're just accustomed to doing it, but it's not giving them a return.
For sure.
And so analyze everything you do. There is value in it. And then what you find you're doing best at, double down on it. And then, but also be learning how to get better at what you're not really that good at right now.
You're choosing a market where there's high enough price points with enough turnover in that market where you can, quote, make a living. I just want to really quickly end this point with, what do you feel like is enough to make a living? What does that look like to you? Like when you're
depends on, that depends on the agent. What income level do you want? Because if you're going to do a transaction that makes you $5,000 and you want to make $150,000, $200,000 in a year,
you're going to sell a ton of real estate.
Yeah. That's a lot of deals.
This is why I got out of the residential business. I had to do 120 sales a year to make them over $1 million. It's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. And it's, you've really got to, from day one, you need to really break down, what is my end goal? I need a strategy. Before you even get into this business, you need to sit down and have a goal and a strategy to get you there. And if you don't, what happens is you're going to look at all these opportunities all around you that are going to be taking your time. But if you have a goal and a strategy, you're going to have one thing you're working on.
100%.
And because you're going to, I learned the hard way. At one point, I had a tech company, I had a property management company, we had our own investments, we had our brokerage company. My head was spinning, and I just think now that I look back and I'm like, man, what a freaking waste. I should have really been more focused.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I think that it's interesting. Like, I look at a market where I'm like, if you look at 1% market share or a 1 to 5% market share, and you don't have at least, I'd say 20, 30 transactions where like the at least 1 to 5% is somewhere in that 1 to 30 transactions. Like you should be seeing 1,000 plus transactions in a market, which means if you have 1%, that's 10 deals, right? Mm-hmm. Which is probably more achievable than a market where you have like 100 transactions and 1% is one deal, especially first few years here in the business, right? And then I'm just curious, last thing on this, and we can move to the next piece here, which is how do you choose the asset class specifically? I feel like there's just obviously there's so many things to choose from. You got office that's falling apart and right before our very eyes. Multifamily all of a sudden is having flat rents. Industrial has been overbuilt in a lot of areas all across the market. Right. Retail's been ever changing. Malls are getting hit bigger and hard. Like how do you choose an asset class?
Which is most interesting to you? And you got to look at the market. So let's say 2 years ago, you're going to be an office broker. You didn't forecast it out going, oh, this could get to be, with COVID, this could, and work from home, this could get to be a mess. You want to look at that going, okay, this asset class could really be affected by this. And so maybe I should go do retail, or maybe I should go do multifamily. One thing about the internet, there's never a lack of information now. You can, commercial real estate agents, we're not really in sales anymore. We're just in information gathering. And putting it to packaging it so we can get information out. So there's a ton of information, but even in office right now, if you go to downtown LA or even around the west side, Class A office buildings are 80-90% full, but you go to a class lower, B minus, C, they're for the most part empty, so it depends on the asset class. The level that you're at in each asset class too. But housing is usually pretty good. It just depends on the amount of transactions that are happening in the area. Like if you go into Santa Monica, California, you want to be a multifamily broker, there's not a huge turnover there. So you're going to do a lot of marketing and there's just not a ton of deals. But you go just south and a little bit east of Venice, tons of activity. There's a lot of activity going on.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, okay? What are your thoughts? Because a lot of what I've been saying is I just personally, this is just my 2 cents. I believe there's not enough of a market share to be had if you're just focused on one town. I don't believe it. No, don't get me wrong. I've seen it happen by people who are in the industry for 30 years, right? You've been doing, like you were mentioning, they've been going in these properties for 20, 30 years and they just know every single person. They're, they grew up with everybody in the town. Like, sure, you can say there's an exception to the rule. However, I just don't see it possible. Even in a county, it's sometimes difficult when there's only like 120 total transactions in one asset class in an entire county. That's why, like, a lot of what we've been saying is go to, sometimes you got to expand geographically to sometimes, a tri-county or an entire state sometimes to even build enough market share to make a living.
The thing is that real estate is a very local business, right? Depends on where you're at. If you're in Wallback, Nebraska, where I grew up, you're going to be 100 miles away to get enough business to really go after. depending on, I mean, if you're trying to do industrial or you're trying to do commercial,
Yeah.
there's just not going to be enough. And what it is the numbers aren't going to be big enough, so.
Agree.
But if you're in west side of Los Angeles, you can take off 8 blocks, square, and start a pretty good career and expand it from there. I mean, there's a guy here in LA that started just in the Beverly Hills area. That's it. He just put signs, this is years ago, he put signs up on buildings before the internet around Beverly Hills. He is everywhere now. He's from Malibu. I've seen him in East LA, miles and miles and miles of business. But
sure,
you got to start off, you've got to really gauge, what your end game is, and if you've got to look at the market, you've got to understand your market.
So let's talk about the next phase of this, right? My type of business is slightly different than the majority, right? We don't try to list a lot of stuff. We do a lot of off-market transactions only. We work in the best interest of of our buyers. Like I raise a lot of money to buy deals. My first and foremost priority is to try to make an offer on the property personally on just about every single property we come across. Listing is our last priority, right? We make offers on these types of properties, try to get great deals for our investors. So obviously slightly different way of doing business, right? Which obviously leads to, we don't really care about reviews. There's nobody to review us. Maybe our buyers can review us, but
Right.
it's not much for that. So I'm curious now, somebody who, if you have somebody who's already trying to scale their business, they're already, let's just say they've done a few deals, like what are you seeing is like the biggest differentiator right now when it comes to doing this business, right? Like, are you seeing focusing on, like, obviously with interest rates and everything, like there's so many different variables of why people have done less business this year and last year versus 2021 and 2022. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, like, where are you seeing that shift?
A lot of it is a mental shift, honestly, Henry, because, the people that are making money, doing what they haven't changed what they're doing. They're doing the same thing they do every day. And people that are scrambling to look for, they're trying to, I see, especially newer agents, what else is new? How can I make this process easier? And I think you and I both know that's pretty hard to do. If there is a way. Now, AI is going to make things a lot easier for a lot of this, but there's the guys that I know that are doing very well in this marketplace. They're still doing what they've always done. Yeah. And that's important. You've got to have a daily structure that I'm still doing my calls. I'm still doing cold calls, warm calls, networking, getting to know people, staying in front of people. You'd be surprised because I own property, and I think I've got 2 calls today from a property we own in Dallas. And, the brokers are out there hunting deals, and both brokers I know they've called on all of our properties. They're still rolling. We don't ever plan on selling. I tell them that. But they keep coming back, and they're doing what they know how to do. They're just staying in front. I see them calling. I'm like, okay, good. But new people, I'll just say no. I'm not thinking about selling. I don't hear from them again.
Yeah, I think that it's a long. Like one of the biggest things that we talk about a lot is that it's just having the right long-term mindset, right? Like this is a freaking marathon industry. I'm excited to keep saying, and I've been saying it for a long time. I'm excited to say it's like I'm gonna be in this industry for another 40 years, right? Like this is just where I belong. And I know that it's very hard to be beaten over a 40-year period of time. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to be in this industry for the next couple of decades and just doing the same thing every day consistently.
It's the basics. I mean, I did a poll a few months ago, and I asked people that had done transactions, what do you think is the biggest weaknesses of commercial real estate agents? And these guys are repeat buyers. They're investment companies. When I call an agent, their voicemail was full. That was a big one. When I call an agent, I don't get a return phone call. Sometimes I don't get or if I get a return phone call, it's hours later. I'm on to the next broker. If you want to be a good broker, get that voicemail cleared out. Be responsive. And if you can't respond right away, just put a message on your phone going, listen, I'm out doing showings right now. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Everybody appreciates that. And then just follow through. It's really, that poll was such an eye opener for me, because I'm like, we talk to agents, you can't leave a message, they want you to text. That's fine with me, but there's sellers or there's investors out there that will not. They're like, nope, I'm moving on. This guy or girl can't even keep their voicemail empty.
No, I love that you're talking about these weaknesses. So like I heard you say, the voicemails and giving people a call back and follow through. Yeah. Let's talk quickly. You cannot live without a commercial realtor cannot live without these 2 or 3 or 4 softwares. What's like your top softwares you need to have to do any business right now?
Your CRM, that is your lifeblood. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. I've told this story quite a few times, so if you've heard it, I apologize. I'll make it short. But so there's an agent that I know, she's in Las Vegas, and she's been in the business about 8 years now. She was an assistant before, and her path that she got to work in that office and see all the commercial real estate agents. And she's younger, she's a little bit more tech savvy than a lot of them. And she goes, man, a lot of these people are missing the boat. So she decided to get in the sales side. I think she's doing office leasing in Las Vegas. She does some industrial as well. But her focus in the very beginning, before she even started, was getting a good CRM and filling it out in complete detail. So if I need to know if there's an office or industrial property on whatever side of the strip she's on in Las Vegas, I can call her and say, hey, who's in that building and how much time is left on their lease? She can go in her system and she can tell you. She's been offered $2 million for that CRM. So she can sell that CRM, or when she decides to retire, she can just say, okay, here's my CRM. I get 10, 20, 30% on each deal that you do from my clients. Or she can stay involved and cut a deal. The CRM is that information is the most valuable information you're going to have, especially if, like when I was talking about the block program, you put that information in there. Who's the manager? When's their kid's birthday? All of that information should be in there. Yeah. And what was the result of my last call with them? All that should be in there. That is the number one tool that you need to be focused on.
Okay, so CRM. Is there any other software, real quick, off the top of your head, like the 1, 2, 3? I know obviously CRM number one. I wrote it's number 1, 2, and 3. And actually, real fast, do you have a CRM suggestion?
Client Look is one that our agent uses. I've got an agent using Outlook, and he's probably the best at it. I mean, he fills everything out in detail. I was shocked. I'm like, really?
You said Client Look?
Client Look was one that he used. Yeah. But you gotta see what fits for you. There's so many of them that are out there, and you've got to find one that really fits what your needs are.
So CRM. So we say, let's just say choose a CRM. Number 2, any other software you feel like you need in order to get started today?
This pains me a little bit, Henry, but CoStar is very powerful. You've got to have it.
For sure.
And now, as of now, I'd say you need to have a good understanding of a good AI, either Gemini, which used to be Bard, or ChatGPT. The analytics that you can put together, the content creation, you can do ideas there. Don't go out and I did a test. Actually, we're in the middle of a test. So we're taking on my blog and we're putting just AI written pieces on there to see what kind of traffic it draws, compared to me writing the entire blog and then me writing half of it and then AI writing half of it. We're doing a test to see how this all works. We're in the middle of it. So, but I can tell you now, just everything. Yeah, I'm going to be anxious to see how it works out. But I can see now that just the AI stuff is not pulling that well. You got to remember, it's everybody's ideas put together, and AI is pulling it all. So it's not really that new of information. So it's really hoping it would be.
CRM, CoStar, ChatGPT, anything else you feel like you need?
Gemini is another good one you can use.
Okay. Yep. Gemini.
CREsync is another good one. They have a free portion too. CREsync is good, but there's just tons of new AI. Actually, about 2 minutes before we jumped on here, I was just getting on a list AI that's out there and seeing what was. So I didn't get through the list.
Let's talk about this real quick, because everyone keeps talking about AI. I honestly believe that AI is a toddler phase right now. Right? It's a toddler phase. I think ChatGPT is fantastic. I use it just about every single day. For a lot of people who want to do again, like you said, content creation, other things, I think there's some interesting tools for that. Maybe some small automation AI tools right now for emails that you had mentioned, and maybe for texting and emailing purposes. But other than that, because I test a lot of AIs, I have not yet seen something where I'm like, holy blank, that is going to absolutely change the game. I haven't seen it yet. I'd love to get your opinion. I don't know if maybe you've seen something I haven't, but this is just again, my 2 cents.
Gemini, if you're using the paid version, of ChatGPT and Gemini, they're getting stronger and stronger every day. But what most people don't realize is you've got to make sure you understand the inputs. Understand when you're inputting, because if you're putting junk in, you're going to get junk out. You've got to ask it exactly what you want. It's good for analytics on if you wanted to pull analytics for your marketplace, it's there. It can pull it up for you. It can save you just so much time. Yeah, and for ideas, if you need blog ideas or content creation ideas, it'll spit ideas out that you just, instead of sitting there racking your brain, you can put it in there. It'll give you some great ideas.
Yeah, I'm just even more saying just because look, I think Bob Knack was probably one of the greatest brokers ever, right? I had him actually on here as well. I interviewed him as well. I just find it interesting interesting, like, because he's creating this brokerage that's so AI powered brokerage, right? He says like the agents who leverage AI are going to be the ones who are in business. AI is not going to take over. It's the agents who are who are going to be able to use it are going to take over. I definitely hear the philosophy. I just don't see I actually think that what you said about the inputs was fantastic, because I don't think enough people talk about that. Understanding what needs to be actually asked of the AI is actually going to drastically change what you get out. I just have not seen a software that really, as someone who I've made over 1 million cold calls in my career, my team makes over 100,000 cold calls a month. There is not something right now, and sure, you can look at Air AI where you can pay, and it's a weird AI service right now. That's, again, it's infancy. I think in the next 3 to 5 or 10 years, I think AI is going to dominate. It is not there yet, and I think these agents are looking for something to replace them today, and it's just not it.
It's really not, but it is. It's every 6 months. So we do a couple of companies, and we're testing out robocalling. We tried one a few months ago. You could see that it was hesitating because it was pulling data from the internet, but we just checked it again a couple weeks ago. What a difference! It's still not ready, and they tell you that, the company tells you that, but what a difference. It's evolving very quickly. But if you don't, Bob is right. I had Bob on my channel too, and talking about AI, and if you don't get into it, you are going to be left behind. For sure. And one thing that we're doing different, a lot of the big firms are working on the back end. They want, we got to figure out how to make, because they want to cut staff, right? They really want to be able to get rid of marketing staff.
They're trying to integrate it in the software side.
Right. Yep. We're focused on at Commercial Brokers Now. We're focused on the front end. So if you go on Commercial Brokers International, you're going to see an AI tool on there that will give you the value of a multifamily property, and it's pretty close. We've tested it a few times. It's not like Zillow. Sure. It's pretty close. So we're using that. We're using it, and we've got a few other things we're working on for lead generation for our agents. So I think, and then eventually we'll go into the back end when we got so much business, hopefully, that, we can do it. But it's going to be, AI is going to allow all brokerages to not have a huge marketing team. There won't be a need for it. You're going to have people that understand how to use the tool, and you're not going to need 10 people. You're going to probably need 2, maybe 3, depending on the size.
I mean, look, they got Joe Biden to talk, right? AI is pretty impressive.
They might, there's a firm out of, I don't remember where he's at. Henry, I can't remember where he's out of, but so he's got it to where you can take a lease contract and put it in his AI, and you can put all the regulations, everything you want that's in your area, your city, all the requirements, and it'll spit it out with all the changes that you want.
That's pretty
amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So the back end is going to be, you're not going to need that much office staff in a commercial brokerage company. And just
it's exciting years to come. Well, listen, I know you have to jump very soon, so I have last 4 rapid fire questions. These are like 10 to 30-second responses. Okay.
Okay.
So here we're just going to rip through them. So number 1 is, if you had to restart from absolute zero today, what would be your first 3 steps to rebuild what you've built today?
I'd get into a brokerage firm that really gave me support, mentoring, and the marketing I wanted, marketing that I could do on my own, because I don't want to do what they have to approve. So I'd probably end up in a boutique firm, right? That's exactly what I'd do. I'd find a very entrepreneurial firm that I could really focus on. I would focus on retail in an area like we talked about earlier. I'd really focus on that, and I'd blow it up. And I'm talking about LA. So I don't know how it is in your market with retail. Right now, we are on fire with retail. Office is just okay. Multifamily, industrial sales. Industrial sales are still going okay.
And you're saying, again, retail sales, correct? I'm just wanting to make sure.
Leasing. I would do retail leasing right now. Sales are just tough across the board. I think, we're going to get a little bit of an interest rate blip, but, I don't think it's going to be too much. Not enough to really spur a whole lot.
So boutique firm, retail leasing, downtown. You said what? Downtown LA.
Depending on your market, I would do it in my market. I'm in West LA. We can kind of go anywhere here because a lot of retail wants to be here.
Cool.
That's what I'd be focused on.
Okay, and then this is an interesting one. A little personal, but I like it. If today was your last day, Joe, and you just had to give some advice to your kids, your current family, your future family, what would it be?
As we get older, our parents started looking smarter and smarter. And my dad just said, Joe, you got 1 mouth and 2 ears. There's a reason. If you just stop and listen instead of talk, you're going to grow a lot faster. You're going to learn a lot more.
Number 3, what's one thing you would say right now to an agent who's struggling, trying to break through that first 6 figures in the real estate business?
We would want to sit down and look at their analytics. Where is your strength? Where is your weakness? And how can we work on those weaknesses? And maybe we need to double down on your strengths. So the analytics are that important. I think you've got to look at how are you going to make more money? Focus on what's working for you. Fix what's not working for you.
Last thing, real quick. What's one skill or habit that you are currently working on, or that you have worked on in the past, that you feel like has been one of the largest or biggest game changers in your business?
And this is going to sound a little California-like, but honestly, Henry, I've been taking some time to meditate and really in the evenings stop and do some meditation. And I know it sounds corny, but if my father heard this, but I have to tell you, I get more of a clear head. Because I used to wake up, and sometimes I still do, wake up in the middle of the night thinking about everything I've got going on. I'm always very thankful for it, but sometimes you just need to step away and shut down. Until I really started doing that, it's just a lot easier. It's really a lot easier if you can step away, shut down, and I come with clearer thoughts. But still, I wake up in the morning and I've got, like, on my phone, I've got all these notes I've made, but it's not like it used to be,
Sure.
So I think meditation is in really taking the time to just be in your own head is important.
It's so funny. I just got married. My wife's from California, and she's a big fan of meditating. From the Northeast, we don't meditate. We just, get right to it.
I'm from the Midwest. I grew up on a farm. Neither did we. But
I'm just, she's getting me into it these days. She's getting me into it.
It is, it's hard to. In the beginning, it was very, very hard to just clear my head and focus on just being, with yourself. And it's pretty powerful, actually. If you can do it.
I've done it a few times, and I think it's been absolutely fantastic. So, Joe, how can my audience follow you? Where can they reach you? How can they reach you?
Well, Henry, you can go on the joekillinger.co website. You see behind me on YouTube. It's just under Joe Killinger. Check it out there. Putting content out every Monday we're putting content out every day, except Saturday and Sunday. But so check that out, or you just want to give me a call and have a discussion. It's 310-943-8542. So reach out anytime.
Awesome. Joe, thank you so much for being on today. I appreciate you very, very much. And
thank you.
I'd love to have you on again sometime soon. Have a great night.
Let's do it, sir.
Let's do it. Thanks so much.